What's up, guys? Welcome back. We're going to have back-to-back episodes for you today. Now, we're going to be discussing, what is this, UFC APEX 2? How the fuck are we calling this? On Google, it says UFC Saskatchewan. That's clearly out the fucking window. UFC Las Vegas 2. Crazy times. We're in the middle of a pandemic still. The only place you can watch fights, you can really watch any sports at this point, is the UFC at the UFC APEX Center. Great times are coming. ESPN Plus is bringing them for us. I want to point out one thing, the huge exposure that our sport is getting right now due to the other sports being closed. It's the only sport currently actively going, and it's the most major sport on the biggest sporting network, ESPN, at this point.
Well, Dana White is a genius for a reason. Like, he's the best promoter in the world for a reason.
No, for sure. He's literally taking a page out of Vince McMahon's book and just saying, hey, listen, we're the only option in town right now.
Yeah, the two best promoters, show businessmen in the world right now. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Now, the main event this weekend, Jessica Eye looks to climb back up the flyweight rankings, and it takes on Cynthia Calvillo, who she is welcoming to the division. This is a great matchup for Calvillo, a big name for Eye. Can't wait for this one on Saturday. We're going to go discuss this card in a little more detail, though. To start off the night, we have the welterweight division. Anthony Ivory, 8-2, is taking on Christian Aguilar, 13-6. How do you see this fight playing out?
I don't actually know. I have no idea how this fight will go. I believe that these two fighters are kind of even.
Well, this is his first fight, Ali's first fight. So, yeah. I mean, we'll see what he could do in the UFC.
Yeah, so I'm not sure actually about this fight. This is like a big question mark for me.
And you know what? A lot of people are probably going to say that same thing. You know, we have two guys who have never fought in the UFC before having their UFC debuts against each other. The one thing is, obviously, Dana White has went and put these guys on this card for a reason. These guys can scrap clearly. And like you and I always say, you start the card off with a bang, and they're probably trying to do just that.
Listen, this is their first fight in the UFC. Both of them will try to kill. So, yeah, amazing. Let's see that.
Yes, Jordan Griffin had a great victory in his last outing against downtown TJ Brown with a slick submission from the guard. He is going to be taking on Derek Minner in the featherweight division. Derek Minner had a last-minute fight for his UFC debut, so this is his first fight with a full camp. It'll be interesting to see what Derek can do against a very well-known featherweight in Jordan Griffin.
Like you said, this is a pretty good matchup. Jordan Griffin looks scary in this picture. Why did they bring this picture of him to make on Google? Psycho. Yeah, he really looked like a psycho. Interesting matchup. Both of the fighters are pretty good fighter. Can you pick a winner this fight?
I think Minner with a full camp definitely has the advantage here. I love Jordan Griffin. Obviously, we support all our natives here, but I just feel like Derek Minner has the edge here, especially. This might be his second UFC fight, but the man has had over 35 fights.
Exactly, which is impressive.
Yes. Now, in the bantamweight division, Tyson Nam, 16-11-1, is taking on Zaruk Adshiv. I don't fucking know.
So, Zaruk Adshayev.
That's exactly what I said, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Like verbatim. That's crazy. So he's 3-1. I actually don't know a whole lot about whatever you said his name was.
Yeah, I believe that nobody know a lot about Zaruk. So is he like some sort of Russian type of guy that they just brought up?
I don't know. I know Tyson Nam, though, and they constantly, like, his last two fights have been against killers. That he lost both of them, but he's looked okay in each outing. I mean, it's going to be an interesting fight between these two. I really think so.
Yeah, like I said, another big question mark because this guy, Zaruk Adashev, we don't know him. So, yeah, let's discover this fighter.
For all we know, he's one of those crazy Dagestanis, and he just comes out there and murders everybody.
Who knows? Maybe.
This is his UFC debut. Ryan Bennett was originally supposed to be in this fight, and Zarib just stepped in to fight him, and that was yesterday.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
obviously the guy's got some balls, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's see. Let's see those balls.
Wow. Yep. Waleed just went there. He said he wants to see his balls. Well, on to the women's bantamweight division. Julia Avila is 7-1, fighting Gina Marzana. She's 6-3. I really like Julia Avila in this. She lost her last fight, I believe, and she's looking to bounce back from that performance. Now, what do you think is going to come out of this fight, and do you think that Julia has the advantage here?
I'm not sure she does have the advantage. Gina is a tough matchup for her. So, like I say, this card is full of even matchup, I think, so far. So, another tough one to call. Tough matchup. I'm not sure. You said that Julia may win and she may have the advantage. I would go with Gina, you know what? Because that's what we do here.
What we do here. Now, listen, I really like this next guy right here. Lightweight divisions, Charles Rosa had a phenomenal outing against Bryce Mitchell, but came out on the losing end of that fight. Now looking to have a bounce back performance against a very game Kevin Aguilar.
Charles Rosa, even though Bryce Mitchell, let's say it kind of destroyed him, but he didn't really hurt him because it was more of submissions attempts. So he didn't, that's why he's fighting. And but we will see if mentally he's still there, because Bryce Mitchell, that was a huge blow for him. So pretty interesting to see how he's mentally for this fight.
Not only just that, too, Bryce Mitchell beat him at his game.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
There's that. Mariana Agpova is 8-1. She's making her UFC debut against Hannah Cipher, who is 10-5. Tell me, we all know a lot about Ms. Hannah Cipher. Do you know anything about Mariana?
Not a lot, actually. I don't know a lot about her, but to have those
young, she's 23 years old. She has a great record, obviously.
Yeah.
I believe the line is in Schaefer's favor, but that could all change, between now and then. We haven't seen a whole lot of her opponent, and she comes from Kazakhstan, obviously. Huge line of great fighters coming out of Kazakhstan when you look at the female champion that they have right now. Yeah. The betting line has Hannah Schaefer at plus 180. So, obviously they're still giving her a chance. It'll be an interesting fight. We'll see how it all plays out on Saturday night.
Well, I believe there's a reason why they are the main event of the prelims and not Charles Rosa against Kevin Aguilar, which for me would make more sense to have them. The UFC is actually maybe have something on that in this Maria Agapova. Maybe she's a next future star. Who knows?
Maybe she's the next Valentina Shevchenko, and we don't even know about it.
Who knows? Maybe we need fresh blood in those divisions. So yes. She's welcome with open arm, man.
Well, especially if you really look at that division, it is quietly becoming stacked, especially if you look at, like the likes of Cynthia Calvillo coming up from strawweight. You constantly have some of the smaller bantamweights, trying to test their, feet in that division. Flyweight is a great women's division.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The only problem is there's a queen all the way at the top, and she's the biggest boss you've ever seen.
Yeah, the problem with those divisions, actually in all the division, are the champions right now in the female division. Weili Zhang is tremendous. Amanda Nunes is the scariest female you will ever fight. And Valentina Shevchenko is just flawless, man. When she fights, she's
100%, man. And the way she does it too is she'll beat you with her submission skills. She'll definitely beat you striking. She could do it with her hands. She could do it with the head kicks. Look at what she did against the young lady in the main event, Jessica Ai. Jessica Ai wore a bulletproof vest to the weigh-ins. Valentina Shevchenko on purpose kicked her in the head because bulletproof vests don't protect you from headshots.
Well, all the Call of Duty players know that, so yeah.
Listen, listen, the bullet, I mean, it's scary what is on top of that women's flyweight division. But let's get back to UFC Apex 2, whatever the fuck we're calling it. Bantamweight division, the main card starting off with a bang. Jordan Espinoza against Mark De La Rosa. Mark De La Rosa obviously is the husband of Montana De La Rosa.
Yeah.
Now, I really feel like Jordan Espinoza definitely has the wrestling pedigree to make this a very, very long night for Mr. Mark De La Rosa. But if Mark can get in there with his slick submission skills, ooh, his wrestling also, too, is very good. It's to be a pretty good wrestling matchup.
Yeah, I hope this fight actually goes to the ground. I don't want to see a sloppy striking fight between two pretty good grappler and jiu-jitsu artists. So
Espinoza has a 4.5-inch reach advantage.
That can be interesting, but in a grappling type of fight, the reach can actually not be in your advantage.
Well, no, it can be in your advantage because you're able to reach across, grab the other arm. You know what I mean? There's definitely ways, if you're smart, which Jordan Espinoza is with his wrestling, there's definitely ways to utilize your wrestling and make it an advantage if you are a longer fighter.
I agree with you.
Now, in the featherweight division, Andre Touchy Philly. I love Andre Touchy Philly. Is going up against a very game Charles Jourdain. Now, Charles Jourdain has taken out some of the very best prospects at 145 pounds, and now it's time for him to take a huge step up in competition. The 24-year-old is looking to take on one of the most decorated featherweight fighters that we've had, especially one that's never touched the belt. Charles Jourdain, with a win here, could really propel himself into those contender series.
I actually really like this fight because Andre Philly, like you said, I believe he's a pretty liked fighter because every time he fights, it's a show.
Yes.
So yeah, pretty interesting matchup. Charles Jourdain, tough fight for him against a guy like Andre Philly who have like 27 fights. Like, I feel like I remember when he was pretty young and still starting. In my head, he's still a baby somehow, Joe Philly, but he's not. The dude have 27 fights, so yeah, interesting matchup.
Yeah, 100%. Who do you think comes out with a victory, Jourdain or Philly?
I would go with my man Andre Philly, representing Team Alpha Male.
Jourdain, man. I really feel like Jourdain is going to have the upper hand here, and I really feel like the UFC has something in this young man.
Don't go against Team Alpha Male. Never do that, even when they lose.
Now, in the bantamweight division, Merab Dvalishvili is taking on Ray Borg. Now, Ray Borg has had the title shot at flyweight. I really feel like that might be his better division. But even though when you and I talked about that last time, he looked very good at bantamweight and put on a hell of a performance. Here he goes again against a very game Merab Dvalishvili, who beat our good friend Casey Kinney. Can Merab do it again and continue to look very well in the UFC?
Well, a win against Ray Borg would be huge for him. So what I'm actually excited about this fight, and I hope that Matt Serra will be on his corner yelling, because I want to hear Matt Serra yelling in an empty arena. That's what I want.
Matt Serra wasn't there with Aljo. I don't think Matt Serra is with them right now.
I'm not sure about that, so I hope he's there. Maybe he's not. Maybe we'll see just a Raging Gala Aquinda and the same people they had for the Aljo fight.
They just rotate him out.
Yeah, maybe Aljo would be there.
I think honestly, everyone just stayed in Vegas. They probably had Raging Al, Aljo, Merab, and another guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even though
it makes sense.
I really
hate agreeing with me.
No, I really didn't want to hear Matt Serra yelling in an empty arena, because you will hear only him. He will be louder than any strike, than the ref, than Joe Rogan with the microphone.
Fucking great.
It will be amazing. That's the next show.
For sure. Can't wait. Honestly, Joey, have fights. Just have Matt Serra yelling across the cage.
Exactly. So
now the
co-main.
Whoa.
Give me a prediction.
I do the fucking speed around here, Kev. I want to jump to the next fight.
No. The next fight is a huge fight for me, because
for sure.
I want a prediction. Wait, I want a prediction.
Merab. I just feel like they're doing something good out there in New Jersey. Mark Henry has had phenomenal performances It's not Mark Henry, but you know what I'm talking about. Fucking Raging Out. All those guys have all had great performances back to back to back. I think they're doing something right up there. I mean, I could really see Merab winning this fight.
I agree with you. I would go with Merab. I like his style. I like his training camp. I like everything. So yeah, we will see. But Ray Borg is a very dangerous fighter. So
now in the middleweight division is a fight which recently has gained a lot of momentum, especially because of the huge altercation that these two had in a hotel room in Jackson, or not in the hallway of a hotel in Jacksonville. Carl Robertson was too sick to make their fight. I believe it was the fight after 249. Marvin Vettori was seen visibly upset about it, calling him out, called him a pussy, along other things, pretty much, saying all kinds of bad shit. But Marvin Vettori and Carl Robinson are now finally going to get locked inside of a cage together. And I feel like Marvin Vettori's like that vicious bit, like pit bull on the corner of the fucking street, and like they're just waiting to let him off his leash.
So Marvin Vettori, I will repeat it every time. He is the only guy that was actually a challenge for the actual middleweight champion right now. He's the only one that actually went to decision with him in a decent fight where Adesanya looked like a human. So Vettori in this fight, I want him to destroy Robertson, because I feel like Vettori, with 2 or 3 good fights, he can be out there with the true contenders for the belt. I really feel that he have the potential. Now, is he going to do that to Carl Robertson? That's another thing. Maybe he will get too involved, too emotional, because we saw, like you said, in the hotel what happened, the altercation, whatever, the insults. So, and Robertson is not an easy matchup. So yeah, very, very interesting matchup. For me, this should be the main event, just because I'm pretty involved in this fight and because how I like Vettori. I would go with Vettori. Vettori is actually not a true finisher. A lot of his fights go to decision. So maybe in this fight he will change and maybe he will finish Robertson. That's what I think.
I really feel like Vettori has, gained a lot of momentum, especially because, like you say, being the only person that's really made Israel look human. I don't know if that speaks to Marvin Vettori or the evolution of the style bender that we continue to see fight in and fight out. But I definitely feel like there is something to talk about when it comes to Vettori and his talent. I think this fight is really going to showcase that he is, a very big threat in the middleweight division. I think he wins this fight. I think he beats Carl Robinson, and I think he stakes his claim as a real contender.
Yeah, I agree with you. For once or twice.
We do that every once in a while.
Yeah.
Now in the main event, women's flyweight division, Jessica Evil Eye is going up against Cynthia Calvillo. Like I said, Jessica Eye is trying to find herself back into the title picture, while Cynthia Calvillo is now testing the waters in a new division. I really think that her body was built more for the flyweight division, and I feel like she is going to have a lot of success here.
Well, she is welcomed by a very dangerous fighter in Jessica Eye. Don't think that Jessica Eye is an easy fight just because we saw what happened against Valentina. Valentina will do that to anyone except for Amanda Nunes. So yeah, the number 2 fight, Valentina actually won. So Cynthia.
Thank you. Should we agree on that too?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we agree actually about. Cynthia, her fight against Carla Esparza, if I remember, she didn't look that good. So I'm pretty intrigued about how she will look in this new division. This is an interesting matchup. So I will not lie, this is not the best main event that we ever had since this Corona thing happened. So, but it's a very interesting matchup. Do you think that this fight go to 5 round?
I don't know. Jessica Eye talks about she is very game and ready to go for 5 rounds. I know Cynthia Calvillo can go for 5 rounds. I've watched her since her UFC debut. I really feel like Calvillo has the edge here. I just feel like she is built for this flyweight division. I feel like she's going to stake her claim to this Saturday night.
Well, I feel like Cynthia, if she's going to win, it will be by decision. And then Jessica, she can finish Cynthia, but I don't think that Cynthia can finish Jessica. If Cynthia gets the finish, I would be pretty surprised in this fight.
Yeah, I don't think Cynthia's going to get the finish, but I do believe that she has enough skill to win the decision.
Yeah, I think that Jessica may be too big for her, so I'm not sure. I would go with Jessica I in this fight.
No, for sure. That pretty much wraps it up for that. One thing I wanted to talk about, though, before we got off the air today, Fight Island is real. It's in Abu Dhabi. I've been talking about Abu Dhabi being pretty much the eastern fight capital of the world, to where Las Vegas is the western fight capital of the world. I'm super interested in this matchup between Burns and Usman. Also on that card, you have Holloway versus Volkanovski 2, Jan versus Aldo for the vacant bantamweight title, Andrade versus Namajunas 2, and Amanda Ribas versus Paige Van Zant. That is your main card. They haven't even really worked out all the kinks for the other portion of the card, but I know they have Volkan Oezdemir versus former Risen champion. I mean, just there's a lot of talent on this UFC 251, and Fight Island is real, and Dana White did the damn thing.
Yeah, and actually, the UFC and the MMA world is doing some pretty quick catching up to the boxing world, because if you like, there's a lot of boxing event that should have happened in Abu Dhabi. I believe that they wanted Tyson Fury against Lomachenko rematch actually there on a boat. So yeah, they actually wanted that, and they were willing. Not Lomachenko, but Klitschko. I'm sorry.
Klitschko.
Vladimir Klitschko.
I was like, damn, Lomachenko's like 145 pounds.
No. The rematch between Tyson Fury and Vladimir Klitschko.
On a boat?
On a boat. They wanted to offer them both, I believe, 100 million or something like that. Crazy thing. So, and it didn't happen because Tyson Fury, then he had the cocaine problem, and then he would go on and weighted over 300 pounds. We know the deal. We know the story. Now, the MMA, thanks to Khabib, who opens up the door to them, it's a whole new business there with huge money and huge investors. Like, listen,
if you guys think that Dana paid for this whole thing out of the UFC's pocket, you're fucking high. Some big rich Abu Dhabi guy was like, hey, listen, I just want my own little VIP suite upstairs, and you guys can have this entire arena.
It will be so easy for them to make match there, because for visa issue, no issue. It will be easy. It's not like Europe, like some fighters couldn't go to Europe, or some European fighters that couldn't go to the US. With that, if you have a fight between, I don't know, a European and an American, if there's some visa issue, you know what? Let's book them fight there. And they fight there, there's no issue. The hotel are amazing, like 5-star and above 5-star maybe hotels.
They make our 5 stars look like 1 stars. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They're like gold-plated shit.
Exactly. I will say just something. When we talked about Fight Island, I didn't really imagine that. I really thought that somehow it would be like the Amazon, like trees and, you know, a lion hanging out there, whatever. I know that lions don't live in island, but who gives a fuck? I wanted that, but that's good. Okay, that's good. I thought
Dana was fucking crazy when he started talking about Fight Island. I was like, "There's no way you're gonna make it happen, bro. Like, it sounds great, sounds awesome, but
now
you're fucking crazy. But it's here, it's upon us. Like, this shit is real. Like, what the hell? It's Fight Island. Usman versus Burns, man. I'm super excited for that. We've had Gilbert Burns on the show multiple times. Kamaru Usman's my favorite fighter. I'm so torn on who to pick here. I gotta go with my boy Usman, though.
Dude, Usman destroyed Masvidal and Nate Diaz on Twitter. He destroyed them.
Oh, 100%. Did you see that? He was like, bro, you're fucking like 1 in 25. Yeah, and that was it. He wasn't talking any shit. It was 100% facts.
There's no comeback.
100% dropping facts on these guys, and there was absolutely nothing they could say. Nothing.
Especially Nate. Like Masvidal, he hit them with something on those tweets, but it was pretty good because he know that Masvidal somehow deserves the title shot. But Nate, he destroyed Nate. Like there's no debate about that. He destroyed him. And Nate Diaz, I actually agree with him in one part when he said that fighters, should, that Gilbert Burns maybe shouldn't accept the fight. But in the other hand, why the fuck shouldn't he accept the fight? This is a solo adventure. Gilbert Burns jump on any occasion. Why the fuck wouldn't he jump on the occasion just because? No. I feel like Masvidal deserves. Fuck that. No. Gilbert Burns did the right thing for his career, and he's right.
So Nate Diaz pretty much said they're all bums. So Kamaru Usman's come back. His very first thing he said, "You're bum ass."
Yeah.
L's in the last 5 of 9 in an 8-year span.
Yeah.
12 losses total. 1-1 in the last 4 years. Refused to fight Woodley when offered a title shot. Here's where his comments about the said guy. So said guy, 13 losses total. Lost to Damian Maia, who was KO'd by Burns in the first round. Embarrassed your bum ass. Talking about Masvidal and Nate. Now he talks about Burns. The 6-fight win streak in the less than 2 years. Yeah. KO's Maia, who defeated said guy. 50-44 domination over the #1 welterweight Tyrone Woodley, who you turned down a title fight against. Yeah. Burns is a true martial artist and not all talk. Kamaru Usman is now facing his teammate.
Yeah.
And good friend Gilbert Burns. I listen. This fight has happened a million times. I wonder who gets the best out of who in training, and I wonder who wasn't showing the other person everything. You know what I mean?
Well, this is what I feel. I feel like Kamaru Usman is a better grappler, and maybe Gilbert Burns have a slight advantage when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So it's a pretty interesting matchup, no doubt about it.
Striking, Burns has power, and Burns can strike. Usman, we've seen in his last fight, has okay striking. It's not terrible. It's not great.
Yeah.
I really feel like Burns has an advantage in the striking department.
Yeah, but Usman come out weighing at 200 pounds in the fight night. So, yeah, the jab that he's
throwing, a motherfucking problem.
Because the striking-wise, let's say when Colby hit Usman with 20 strike and Usman was hitting Colby with 20 strike, the damage wasn't the same because there wasn't the same weight class on that fight. Kamaru was huge.
Yes.
Huge. He looked like huge. Yeah, he looked like somehow like a heavyweight for me, and I was like, what the fuck is he like?
In my opinion, the title fights go like this. Usman retains, Volkanovski retains, and Petr Yan is the new bantamweight champion of the world, waiting for Aljamain Sterling.
That will be the perfect how it goes. We had the Khabib actually confirmed fight. There's also 2 fights: the Khabib one against Justin Gaethje, and the DC against Stipe.
Yes, man. DC Stipe 3 is finally happening. We are going to finally figure out who is the best heavyweight of this decade. Is it Stipe Miocic or is it Daniel Cormier? Looks like we're going to finally find out.
It's maybe even who's the best heavyweights of all time at this point. At this point, yeah.
Now, I think Randy Couture might have something to say about that, but there's a time and place for everything. Right now, it's not the time and place.
Exactly.
Now, for you, anything big news coming up?
Well, I will give this statement. Even though all the fights are happening in empty arenas, there's still the vibe that you feel when it's a pay-per-view actually and a fight night. And this card is definitely a fight night compared to the last one we had.
100%. 100%. I love these Apex fights. I feel like they're definitely set up in a very good way. I definitely love the energy that's in the building. It's not like a huge empty arena, which I feel like there was just a lot of dead time. It's small, more compact. It's more intimate. There's a smaller cage, more action with the smaller cage. I love it, man. I love these fights at the Apex. UFC Apex 2.
2 or whatever.
That's what we're calling it.
Okay.
All right. Well, knuckleheads, that about wraps it up for our coverage on UFC Apex 2 and Fight Island. But I don't got anything else. How about you, Wally Wall?
I think we covered everything happening in the MMA world right now.
Excelente. All right, you guys stay classy and be safe out there.
Peace.